The massive ship moved through space like a dark metal mountain. Its black hull stretched for miles, covered in sharp spikes and glowing red lights. Inside the ship, Commander Hyunwoo stood 12 feet tall on his 6 powerful legs. His body was covered in thick, natural armor that looked like black metal plates. 2 sharp mandibles clicked together as he watched the screens showing another world about to fall. The planet below had once been beautiful. Crystal cities rose from green forests, and silver ships flew between floating platforms in the sky. The bird-like people who lived there had feathers that changed colors and large, intelligent eyes. They called themselves the Alterians, and they had built a peaceful society over thousands of years. But peace meant nothing to the Vorthak Empire. "Begin the attack," Hyunwoo said. His voice was deep and harsh like grinding stone. Around him, other Vorthak warriors prepared their weapons. Each one was a perfect killing machine, bred for war and conquest. The Vorthak had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. In all that time, no enemy had ever defeated them. They were stronger than any other race, faster than most, and their natural armor could stop almost any weapon. Most importantly, they all shared one mind when they fought. Each warrior knew what every other warrior was thinking. This made them impossible to surprise or confuse. Hyunwoo watched as hundreds of Vorthak ships surrounded the Alterian world. The bird people tried to fight back with their energy shields and bright plasma weapons. Their ships were fast and graceful, dancing through space like silver birds. But it did not matter. The Vorthak had seen this dance before, on 1,000 other worlds. The first Alterian ship exploded in a ball of fire. Then another. The bird people were brave, but bravery alone could not stop the Vorthak war machine. Within hours, their beautiful crystal cities were burning. The floating platforms crashed down into the forest below. "Another easy victory," said Sub-Commander Yorth, clicking his mandibles with satisfaction. "These creatures fight like all the others. They follow patterns they can be predicted." Hyunwoo nodded. Every race they had conquered fought the same way. They formed neat battle lines, used logical tactics, and tried to protect their civilians. It made them weak. The Vorthak had learned long ago that mercy was a weakness that got you killed. The last Alterian ships fell from the sky. Hyunwoo began planning the next phase. The surviving bird people would be taken as slaves. Their technology would be studied and added to the Vorthak Empire. Their world would become another mining colony, stripped of all useful resources. This was how the galaxy worked. The strong took from the weak. The Vorthak were the strongest, so everything belonged to them. "Commander," called a warrior from the sensor station. "We are receiving long-range signals from the next system. There appears to be another inhabited world." Hyunwoo moved to look at the data. His compound eyes, each the size of a human fist, studied the information. The signals were weak and primitive. Radio waves carrying simple messages about weather and entertainment. The species that sent them did not even seem to know that other intelligent life existed in the galaxy. "How primitive are they?" Hyunwoo asked. "Very primitive, Commander. They appear to use chemical rockets for space travel. Their weapons are based on explosive chemicals and metal projectiles. They have no energy shields, no plasma weapons, and no faster-than-light travel." Hyunwoo clicked his mandibles in amusement. After fighting the advanced Alterians, this would be like stepping on insects. The Empire was always looking for new slave worlds, and primitive species made the best slaves. They were too weak to rebel and too simple to cause trouble. "Set course for their system," he ordered. "Alert the Overlord that we have found another world to add to the Empire." The massive Vorthak fleet turned toward the small blue planet that the primitive inhabitants called Earth. None of them knew they were coming. The signals showed they were busy fighting small wars among themselves, completely unaware that real predators were approaching. Overlord Kajatar received Hyunwoo's report aboard the Empire's largest warship. The Overlord was ancient, even by Vorthak standards. His black armor had grown thick with age, and scars from 1,000 battles marked his shell. He had personally conquered over 200 worlds. "Another primitive species," Kajatar said, his voice like an earthquake. "How Many ships do they have? Sensors detect approximately 30 crewed vessels in their system, my overlord. Most appear to be for exploration rather than war. They will offer no resistance. Kajatar was pleased. Easy conquests meant fewer losses for the Empire and more slaves for the work camps. His strategic mind was already planning how to use these humans. If they were truly primitive, they might be useful for dangerous mining work that even other slaves found too difficult. Take 500 ships, the Overlord commanded. That should be more than enough to crush any resistance and capture the population intact. I want this conquest completed quickly. Yes, my Overlord, it will be done. As the Vorthak fleet prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed, they reviewed what they knew about humans. The species appeared to be mammals, much smaller and weaker than the Vorthak. They had no natural armor or weapons. Their technology was thousands of years behind Vorthak science. Most importantly, they seemed to spend most of their time fighting each other instead of working together. To the Vorthak, this made them perfect prey. Divided species were always easier to conquer. While humans fought among themselves, the Vorthak would destroy their military forces and capture their leaders. Within a few days, Earth would be just another slave world. The jump to faster-than-light speed began. Space folded around the massive fleet as they traveled toward Earth. In the ships, thousands of Vorthak warriors checked their weapons and prepared for another easy victory. They had done this so many times before that it had become routine. None of them suspected that they were about to encounter something completely different, something that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. On the outer edge of the solar system, automated sensors detected the approaching fleet. The signals traveled at light speed toward Earth, carrying news that would either doom humanity or mark the beginning of a new age. The message was simple. 500 alien warships were coming, and they were not coming in peace. In the depths of space, the Vorthak fleet continued its approach. Behind them lay the burning remains of the Alterian homeworld. Ahead lay a small blue planet, whose inhabitants had no idea that the galaxy's apex predators were coming to make them slaves. But the galaxy was about to learn something new about humans, something that 3,000 years of easy victories had not taught the Vorthak Empire. Sometimes the most dangerous predators are the ones that do not look dangerous at all. The hunt was about to begin. But who was really the hunter? And who was the prey? That question would soon be answered in the cold darkness of space where only the strongest survived. Dr. Jihai Park was drinking her third cup of coffee when the universe changed forever. She sat in the Seoul Deep Space Communications Center, surrounded by screens and radio equipment that listened to the stars. For 15 years, she had searched for signs of alien life. She had always hoped the first contact would be peaceful. She was wrong. The signal came at 3:47 in the morning. At first, Jihai thought it was just another equipment malfunction. The computers were screaming that they had detected a massive transmission from outside the solar system. But the signal was too organized, too complex to be natural. "This is impossible," she whispered, staring at the data. The transmission was coming from 500 different sources, all moving together toward Earth at incredible speed. Whatever was sending the signals was big, organized, and heading straight for them. Jihee's hands shook as she began to decode the message. The alien language was nothing like any human tongue, full of harsh clicks and grinding sounds. But the computers slowly began to translate it using mathematical patterns. The message was short and terrifying. "Primitive species of the third planet. You will surrender immediately. Resistance will result in total destruction. You have 72 of your time periods called hours to respond. Prepare for conquest. This is the only warning you will receive." Jihai dropped her coffee cup. It shattered on the floor, but she did not notice. She was looking at proof that humanity was not alone in the universe, and the proof was a death sentence. Within 30 minutes, Jihai was on a video call with ICANN world leaders. President Dongmin appeared on the main screen, his face serious and focused. Around him sat the leaders of every major nation on Earth. They all looked like people who had just learned that monsters were real. "Dr. Park," President Dongmin said, "are you certain this message is genuine?" Yes, Mr. President. The signal is definitely from outside our solar system. The technology required to send it is far beyond anything we possess. And sir, there are 500 of them coming. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. If each alien ship was as large as their biggest warships, humanity was facing an invasion force that could destroy every city on Earth. What do we know about them? Asked the British Prime Minister. Ji-Hai brought up the data on her screen. They call themselves the Vorthak Empire. The transmission includes some basic information about their species. They appear to be large, insect-like creatures with natural armor and advanced weapons. They claim to have conquered over 1,000 worlds. 1,000 worlds, repeated the Chinese premier. How is that possible? They have been expanding across the galaxy for 3,000 years, sir. According to their message, no species has ever successfully resisted them. President Dongmin leaned forward. Doctor, in your professional opinion, is there any chance this is some kind of test or misunderstanding? Ji-He wished she could give him hope, but the science was clear. No, sir. The message is a standard conquest ultimatum. They have done this before many times. They expect us to surrender without a fight. The room erupted in angry voices. Some leaders wanted to try negotiating. Others demanded immediate military preparation. A few suggested they should consider surrender to save lives. President Dongmin raised his hand for silence. As a former general, he understood military realities better than most. How long until they arrive? At their current speed, approximately 71 hours, sir. And our defenses? Admiral Subin joined the call from the Space Command Center. She was young for an admiral, but her record in the recent Mars conflicts had proven her tactical abilities. Mr. President, we have 30 ships capable of space combat. They have 500. Our weapons are chemical rockets and kinetic projectiles. According to the alien transmission, they have energy weapons and advanced shields. So we cannot win a direct fight, Dongmin said. No, sir, not with conventional tactics. The president looked around at the other world leaders. Some of them were already drafting surrender messages. He could see the fear in their eyes, and he understood it. Humanity had never faced anything like this before, but Dongmin remembered something his grandfather had told him about the old wars. Sometimes, the old man had said, the side that should lose finds a way to win anyway. We will not surrender, President Dongmin announced. Sir, said the German Chancellor, we must consider the lives that will be lost. If we cannot win a conventional war, Dongmin interrupted. But we are not a conventional species. Admiral Subin, how quickly can you prepare our fleet? All ships can be ready for combat in 60 hours, sir. Do it. Dr. Park, send a response to the aliens. Tell them that Earth rejects their ultimatum. Ji-Hai looked shocked. Sir, that will certainly provoke them to attack. Doctor, they were always going to attack. The only question is whether we die fighting or die on our knees. Admiral Subin began immediately preparing Earth's defenses. The UES Incheon, humanity's most advanced warship, became her flagship. Captain Jae-sung took command of the destroyer, escort, while Lieutenant Minho led the fighter squadrons. The human fleet was tiny compared to the approaching alien armada, but Subin had advantages the aliens did not expect. Every human captain had been trained in Earth's military academies, where they studied thousands of years of human warfare. They knew about ambushes, false retreats, and psychological warfare. Most importantly, they knew how to fight when outnumbered. Captain Jae-sung, Subin said over the communication system, I want you to review every battle in human history where a smaller force defeated a larger one. Find patterns we can use. Yes, Admiral. Should I focus on space battles? No. Study everything. Land battles, sea battles, even ancient conflicts with swords and arrows. These aliens have conquered 1,000 worlds, but they have never fought humans before. On Earth, Ji-Hai continued monitoring the alien fleet. She watched in horror as the ships grew closer, their massive forms blotting out stars. Each ship was larger than anything humanity had ever built. Their technology was clearly superior in every way. But as she studied their approach, Ji-hai noticed something interesting. The alien ships flew in perfect formation like they were following a precise plan. They moved together like a flock of birds, coordinated and predictable. She called Admiral Subin with her observation. "Admiral, I think these aliens fight very differently than we do. They seem to coordinate their movements through some kind of shared intelligence. What does that mean for us, Doctor?" "It means they think like a single organism instead of individual fighters. That could be a strength, but it might also be a weakness. If we can disrupt their coordination..." Subin understood immediately. They might not be able to adapt to chaos. Exactly. Human military doctrine is based on individual initiative and unpredictable tactics. That might confuse them. As the 72-hour deadline approached, both sides prepared for battle. The Vorthak fleet maintained perfect formation as they entered the solar system. Their weapons powered up, and their shields activated. They expected the primitive humans to either surrender or die quickly. Commander Hyun-woo studied the human response from his command ship. The message had been brief and illogical. "Earth stands free. Come and take it if you can." "Foolish creatures," Hyun-woo clicked to his sub-commanders. "They choose death over slavery. Very well. We will give them what they ask for." The Vorthak had no idea that humanity's greatest weapon was not technology. It was 3 million years of evolution on a world where only the most adaptable survived. Earth had created a species that could find a way to win even when winning seemed impossible. The countdown reached 0. In the darkness between worlds, 2 very different kinds of predators prepared to discover which one was truly superior. The battle for Earth was about to begin. The first battle began near Jupiter, where Admiral Subin had positioned her small fleet in the shadow of the giant planet. The human ships looked like toys compared to the approaching Vorthak armada. 30 human vessels faced 500 alien warships, each one larger and more powerful than anything Earth had ever built. Commander Hyun-woo watched the human fleet through his sensors. The small ships were scattered around Jupiter's moons in what seemed like a random pattern. They were not even trying to form a proper battle line. To his military mind, trained by 3,000 years of successful conquests, the humans looked completely unprepared. "Begin the attack," Hyun-woo ordered. "Standard formation. Destroy them quickly." The Vorthak fleet moved forward like a wall of black metal and death. Their bioships pulsed with organic energy as living weapons prepared to fire. Every ship knew its exact position and role in the battle. They had used this same formation to crush the Alterians and hundreds of other species. But Admiral Subin had been studying Vorthak tactics for the past 3 days. Dr. Ji-hai had decoded enough of their transmissions to understand how they fought. The aliens used coordination and overwhelming force. They expected their enemies to fight back the same way. "All ships," Subin transmitted to the human fleet, "remember the plan. Do not engage in direct combat. Hit and run. Make them chase you. Captain Jae-sung, you know what to do." Captain Jae-sung grinned from the bridge of his destroyer. His ship was hiding behind Io, one of Jupiter's moons. "Understood, Admiral. Beginning Operation Chaos." The Vorthak opened fire first. Beams of purple energy lanced through space, striking empty areas where they expected human ships to be. But the humans were not where the aliens thought they should be. Lieutenant Minho's fighter squadron suddenly appeared from behind Europa, moving at maximum speed toward the Vorthak left flank. But instead of attacking, they fired a spread of old-fashioned nuclear missiles and immediately turned away. "What are they doing?" Sub-Commander Yorth asked, confused. "Those primitive missiles cannot penetrate our shields." He was right. The nuclear weapons exploded harmlessly against Vorthak energy barriers, but the explosions created massive electromagnetic pulses that temporarily blinded the alien sensors. In those few seconds, Captain Jae-sung's destroyer shot out from behind Io like a rocket. Instead of engaging the nearest enemy ships, Jae-sung did something no civilized species had ever attempted. He aimed his ship directly at the Vorthak command vessel and activated all engines at once. His destroyer became a guided missile weighing 50,000 tons. "Impossible!" Hyun-woo roared. No commander would sacrifice his ship in a suicide attack, but Jae-sung was not planning to die. At the last second, he used Jupiter's gravity to slingshot around the planet, changing direction so fast that the Vorthak could not track him. His ship shot past the enemy formation and emerged behind their lines, where he immediately began attacking their supply vessels. The Vorthak fleet tried to turn to face this new threat, but their perfect coordination worked against them. Every ship had to wait for orders from the command structure. While they repositioned, Lieutenant Minho's fighters struck again from a completely different direction. This time, the human pilots did something even more insane. They flew their small ships directly into the Vorthak formation, weaving between the massive alien vessels like insects. The Vorthak could not fire their main weapons without hitting their own ships. Admiral Subin watched the battle from her command center and smiled grimly. The aliens were learning what human military academies had taught for centuries. No plan survives contact with the enemy. Phase 2, she ordered. All remaining ships, implement the Thermopylae Protocol. The Thermopylae Protocol was named after an ancient Earth battle where 300 Spartans held off an army of thousands. The principle was simple. Use terrain to your advantage and make the enemy fight on your terms. The remaining human ships retreated toward an asteroid field near Jupiter. The Vorthak followed, expecting to finish off the fleeing humans quickly. But Subin had spent months preparing this battlefield. Hidden among the asteroids were thousands of old mining charges, ready to be detonated by remote control. As the Vorthak ships entered the field, the humans triggered the explosives. Massive rocks became deadly projectiles, striking alien vessels from every direction. The Vorthak shields could stop energy weapons, but they had never been designed to handle millions of tons of flying stone and metal. Several alien ships suffered hull breaches as asteroids punched through their defenses. This is madness. Hyunwoo clicked in frustration. How do we fight an enemy that refuses to follow the rules of warfare? His question revealed the fundamental problem the Vorthak faced. They had conquered every other species by being stronger, faster, and better coordinated. But humans did not try to match Vorthak's strengths. Instead, they fought in ways that made Vorthak advantages meaningless. Captain Jae-sung continued his rampage behind enemy lines, striking at ships that were not designed for individual combat. His destroyer was badly damaged, but he refused to retreat. When his main weapons failed, he began ramming smaller Vorthak vessels. "Sir," his weapons officer reported, "we have lost main power. All missile tubes are empty." "Then we use what we have left," Jae-sung replied. He ordered his crew to vent all remaining fuel into space, then ignited it with emergency flares. The explosion created a brief star that blinded Vorthak sensors across half the battlefield. Lieutenant Minho took advantage of the confusion to lead his fighters in another impossible maneuver. They landed on the hulls of Vorthak ships and began cutting through armor with industrial welding tools. When the aliens tried to shoot them off, the humans simply moved to different ships. Dr. Ji-hai monitored the battle from Earth, analyzing every move the aliens made. She noticed something important. The Vorthak were becoming more cautious. Ships that should have pressed their attack were holding back, afraid of human tricks. "Admiral," she transmitted to Subin, "the aliens are developing fear. They are no longer fighting with confidence." Subin understood immediately. Fear was humanity's secret weapon. For 3,000 years, the Vorthak had conquered species that fought predictably. They had never faced an enemy that seemed completely insane. "All ships," Subin ordered. "Final phase. Show them what happens when you corner a human." What followed was not really a battle in any traditional sense. It was chaos. Human ships that should have been destroyed kept fighting with backup weapons, emergency power, and pure stubbornness. When their engines failed, they used gravity assists from planets and moons. When their weapons ran out, they rammed enemy vessels or used debris as projectiles. The humans fought like cornered animals, which is exactly what they were. But cornered animals could be the most dangerous opponents in the universe. Commander. Yunwoo watched in growing horror as his superior fleet took heavier and heavier losses. The humans had only 30 ships, but they were fighting like they had 300. Every time he thought a human vessel was finished, it found some new way to cause damage. Worst of all, the human tactics were impossible to predict. His shared mind. Coordination meant nothing against enemies who seemed to make decisions based on madness rather than logic. "Commander," reported his sensor operator, "we have lost 47 ships. The humans have lost only 12. Hyun-woo could not believe what he was hearing. By every rule of warfare he knew, this battle should have been over in minutes. Instead, his fleet was being systematically destroyed by an inferior enemy. For the first time in 3,000 years, a Vorthak commander gave an order that had never been given before. "All ships retreat. Fall back to minimum safe distance." The great Vorthak fleet, terror of the galaxy, turned and fled from 30 human ships. Behind them, Admiral Subin's battered vessels did not pursue. They had made their point. As the alien fleet regrouped beyond Jupiter's orbit, Commander Hyun-woo sent an emergency message to Overlord Kajtar. The message was short but devastating. "Request immediate reinforcements. Humans are not what they appear to be." On Earth, celebrations began as news of the victory spread. But Admiral Subin knew this was only the beginning. The Vorthak would return with more ships and new tactics. The question was, would humanity be ready for the real war that was coming? Overlord Kajtar could not believe what he was reading. The report from Commander Hyun-woo made no sense. How could 30 primitive ships defeat 500 advanced Vorthak vessels? It was impossible, yet the evidence was undeniable. Nearly 50 of his ships had been destroyed or severely damaged. "Bring me everything we know about these humans," the Overlord commanded. "I want their complete history, their technology, their culture. Something is very wrong here." Deep in the intelligence archives of the Vorthak fleet, analysts began studying every human transmission they could intercept. What they found horrified them more than any weapon ever could. Commander Hyun-woo was the first to understand the terrible truth. As he reviewed human communication signals, he discovered something that made his mandibles click with fear. The humans had been broadcasting their entertainment, their news, and their history into space for decades. And all of it told the same story. Humans had been at war with each other for their entire existence. The data was overwhelming. Humans had fought with sticks and stones, then bronze and iron, then gunpowder and steel. They had battled on land, sea, air, and in space. They had created weapons that could destroy their entire planet, then kept fighting anyway. Every major human civilization had been built on the bones of previous civilizations that had been conquered in war. Their greatest heroes were warriors. Their most advanced technologies had been developed for killing other humans. Their entertainment was filled with stories about conflict, strategy, and survival. "This cannot be accurate," Hyun-woo said to his intelligence officer. "No species fights itself this extensively and survives." "The data is confirmed, Commander. Humans have been in a state of constant warfare for over 10,000 years. They have fought approximately 15,000 major wars and countless smaller conflicts." Hyun-woo felt something he had never experienced before. Genuine fear. The Vorthak had conquered the galaxy by being the ultimate predators, but they had just discovered a species that had spent millennia turning warfare into an art form. While the aliens studied humanity's violent history, President Dongmin was authorizing something called Protocol Omega. Deep beneath the mountains of Earth, hidden facilities that had been secret for decades began to activate. Admiral Subin received new orders that made her smile for the first time since the war began. "All fleet commanders report to classified briefing room 7. It is time you learned what humanity has really been building." Captain Jae-sung, his ship repaired and upgraded, joined the meeting along with Lieutenant Min-ho and dozens of other officers. What they saw in the briefing room changed everything they thought they knew about Earth's capabilities. "For the past 50 years, Admiral Subin explained, Earth has been preparing for exactly this situation. We knew that if intelligent aliens existed, we might eventually encounter hostile ones, so we prepared." The screens around the room lit up with images of massive shipyards hidden in asteroid belts, advanced weapon systems disguised as mining equipment, and entire fleets of warships that had been built in secret and kept hidden throughout the solar system. The 30 ships we used in the first battle were not our military, Subin continued. They were our patrol fleet. Our real military has been waiting for this moment. Lieutenant Minho stared at the data in amazement. Admiral, this shows we have over 3,000 combat vessels. How did we keep this secret? Because humans are very good at deception, Lieutenant. It is one of our oldest survival skills. Dr. Ji Hai had been analyzing the Vorthak fleet movements and discovered something important. The aliens were calling for massive reinforcements from across their empire. Ships were coming from dozens of conquered worlds, bringing weapons and warriors that had destroyed entire civilizations. They are learning to fear us, she reported to the Command Council. But that makes them more dangerous, not less. A cornered predator fights hardest before it dies. President Dongmi nodded grimly. Then we show them what a cornered human can do. The second battle began when the Vorthak returned with 2,000 ships instead of 500. Overlord Kajatar himself led the attack, determined to crush the humans before they could cause more damage to his empire. But this time, the humans were ready with their true strength. Captain So Young led the first wave of Earth's hidden fleet. Her ships emerged from camouflaged positions throughout the solar system, appearing on Vorthak sensors like ghosts materializing out of nothing. The alien fleet suddenly found themselves surrounded by enemies they had not known existed. Impossible, Kajtar roared. Where did they get so many ships? The answer was simple but terrifying. Humans had been building them in secret while pretending to be primitive. Every asteroid mining operation had been a disguised shipyard. Every space exploration mission had been military reconnaissance. Earth had been preparing for interstellar war, while appearing helpless. Ground Commander Tae Hyun coordinated the planetary defense systems. Hidden weapons platforms throughout the solar system opened fire, revealing that humanity had turned their entire star system into a fortress. The Vorthak fleet found themselves under attack from directions they had never considered. But the real shock came when human boarding parties began infiltrating Vorthak ships. Captain So Young led teams of soldiers who had trained for this exact mission. They used techniques developed from centuries of urban warfare to move through alien vessels like deadly shadows. The Vorthak had never faced boarding actions before. In all their conquests, enemy species had fought ship-to-ship battles in space. No one had ever been crazy enough to board a Vorthak vessel during combat. But humans had been boarding enemy ships since they first learned to sail wooden boats across Earth's oceans. So Young's team moved through the corridors of a Vorthak command ship, using silence and speed to avoid detection. When they reached the engine room, they did not try to destroy it. Instead, they reprogrammed the ship's own weapons to fire on other Vorthak vessels. Their own technology is being used against them, So Young reported to Admiral Subin. The aliens never considered that their ships might be captured instead of destroyed. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out as human teams infiltrated dozens of Vorthak vessels. The aliens' perfect coordination became a weakness when their own ships began attacking them from within. Commander Hyunwoo found himself fighting a war unlike anything in Vorthak history. Human ships appeared and disappeared like ghosts. His sensors detected weapons fire coming from empty space, only to realize that human vessels were using advanced stealth technology. How do they have cloaking devices? He demanded. Their technology is supposed to be primitive. His science officer checked the data twice before answering. Commander, they appear to have reverse-engineered the technology from studying cosmic phenomena. They learned stealth by watching how black holes bend light. The truth was even more impressive than that. Humans had developed their stealth technology by studying everything from deep-sea creatures to quantum physics. When they wanted to become invisible, they did not just build one type of cloaking device. They built dozens of different types and used them all at once. The battle raged across multiple fronts as Earth's true military revealed itself. Ships that had been disguised as cargo vessels suddenly deployed massive weapons. Space stations that had appeared to be research facilities opened up to reveal fighter squadrons. Even Earth's moon turned out to be armed with defensive systems. But the most devastating human weapon was not technology. It was their willingness to sacrifice everything for victory. When Vorthak forces broke through the outer defenses, human ships began ramming them without hesitation. When conventional weapons failed, humans used their ships as bombs. When they ran out of ammunition, they kept fighting with whatever they could find. The aliens had never encountered anything like it. In their culture, soldiers retreated when the situation became hopeless. Self-preservation was a logical response to overwhelming odds. But humans had learned something different during their long history of warfare. Sometimes the only way to win was to be willing to lose everything. As the second battle reached its climax, Overlord Kajatar realized that his empire faced something it had never encountered before. Not just another species to conquer, but a species that had made warfare its primary skill for thousands of years. For the first time in 3 millennia, the Vorthak Empire was losing a war. And worse than that, they were losing to creatures they had thought were primitive and weak. The galaxy was about to learn a new lesson. Sometimes the most dangerous predators are the ones that have been hunting each other for so long that they have forgotten how to be prey. The news traveled across the galaxy faster than the speed of light. On 1,000 conquered worlds, enslaved species heard the impossible story. The mighty Vorthak Empire had been defeated by a previously unknown race called humans. On the crystal, homeworld of the Alterians, the few surviving bird people received the transmission with disbelief. Elder Kirith, whose feathers had turned gray during the Vorthak occupation, called together the resistance leaders in their hidden mountain caves. "Is this information reliable?" Kirith asked, her large eyes fixed on the communication device. "Multiple sources confirm it," replied her aide. The humans not only defeated 2 separate Vorthak fleets, but they captured several warships intact. The Empire is calling for a full retreat from the human system. For the first time in years, hope flickered in the Elder's eyes. If the Vorthak can be beaten, perhaps we are not doomed after all. Similar conversations were happening on dozens of worlds throughout the former Vorthak territory. Species that had lived in fear for generations began to whisper about rebellion. The impossible had happened. Someone had proven that the galaxy's apex predators could bleed. Dr. Ji Hai stood before the United Nations Assembly, preparing to address the most important gathering in human history. Representatives from every nation on Earth sat in silence, waiting to hear about humanity's first contact with alien civilizations. "Fellow humans," Ji Hai began, "we are no longer alone in the universe. But we have learned that the galaxy is a dangerous place, ruled by species that view conquest as their natural right. We must decide what kind of neighbors we want to be." The assembly erupted in discussion. Some representatives wanted immediate expansion into space to claim territory before other hostile aliens arrived. Others argued for a defensive strategy focused on protecting Earth. A few suggested trying to negotiate with the Vorthak for a peaceful solution. President Dongmin rose to address the assembly. His words would shape humanity's future among the stars. "We have proven that humans can defend themselves," he said. "But defense alone is not enough. Throughout this galaxy are species that have suffered under Vorthak rule for thousands of years. We have the power to help them. The question is, do we have the moral obligation to do so?" The debate continued for hours, but in the end, humanity chose to become liberators rather than conquerors. Admiral Subin received her new orders while standing on the bridge of the UES Incheon. Earth's fleet was expanding rapidly as hidden shipyards worked around the clock to build new vessels. But these ships would not be used for conquest. They would carry a different message to the galaxy. "Captain Jae Sung," Subin called to her. "Veteran destroyer commander, prepare your ship for long-range patrol. We are going to visit some of our new galactic neighbors." Jae Sung smiled. His ship had been rebuilt with the latest human technology, including weapon systems that even he did not fully understand. "Where are we heading, Admiral?" "The Alterian homeworld. It is time we met some friendly aliens." The human fleet that approached the Alterian system was very different from the Vorthak armadas that had terrorized the galaxy. Instead of massive invasion forces, The humans sent small exploration fleets with messages of friendship and offers of assistance. When the Alterians detected the approaching human ships, panic spread through their hidden colonies. Their sensors showed vessels using advanced technology, moving in coordinated formations that reminded them of Vorthak tactics. But the message that came from the human fleet was unlike anything the Vorthak had ever sent. People of Alteria, we are humans from the planet Earth. We come in peace, offering alliance and assistance in rebuilding your civilization. We know what the Vorthak have done to your people. We are here to help you take back what was stolen from you. Elder Kyrith could barely believe what she was hearing. They want to help us? Without demanding anything in return? Dr. G. Hai led the first diplomatic mission to the Alterian homeworld. When she stepped off her shuttle and saw the devastation the Vorthak had caused, she understood why humanity had to become involved in galactic affairs. The crystal cities lay in ruins, their beautiful spires shattered by alien weapons. Survivors lived in underground shelters, afraid to rebuild because they expected the Vorthak to return at any moment. We offer you protection, Jihai told the Alterian Council, and more than that, we offer you the chance to fight back against those who destroyed your world. The alliance between humans and Alterians was the first of many. As word spread that Earth was actively helping enslaved species, rebellions began erupting across the former Vorthak Empire. Commander Hyunwoo found himself in an impossible situation. Half his fleet had been destroyed or captured by humans. The other half was being recalled to defend Vorthak core worlds from rebellions. Worst of all, some of his own warriors were beginning to question the Empire's invincibility. Commander, his intelligence officer reported, we are receiving surrender requests from 17 different Vorthak outposts. Local slave populations have taken control of their facilities. Hyunwoo clicked his mandibles in frustration. How many humans are involved in these rebellions? Very few, sir. It appears that most of the rebels are using captured Vorthak weapons and vehicles. The humans are providing tactical advice and coordination, but the actual fighting is being done by the species we conquered. That was perhaps the most disturbing news of all. The humans were not just defeating the Vorthak military, they were teaching other species how to defeat them as well. On Earth, Captain So-Young was training the first class of alien special forces. Alterian, Zephyrian, and Crystalline soldiers learned human tactics for infiltration, sabotage, and guerrilla warfare. The techniques that humans had developed over thousands of years of conflict were being adapted for use against Vorthak technology. Remember, So-Young told her mixed species class, the Vorthak are strongest when they can use their coordination and superior numbers. Your job is to make sure they never get that chance. Hit them when they are alone, strike from unexpected directions, and never give them time to organize a proper response. The transformation of the galaxy accelerated as more species joined the human-led alliance. But Admiral Subin was careful to ensure that humanity did not simply replace the Vorthak Empire with a human one. We are not conquerors, she reminded her fleet commanders. We are liberators. Every world we free must be given the choice of how they want to govern themselves. Our job is to protect them while they rebuild, not to rule them. This approach proved more effective than simple conquest ever could have been. Species that had been forced to serve the Vorthak chose to ally with humans out of gratitude and mutual benefit. Commander Hyunwoo received his final orders from the dying Vorthak Empire. Retreat to the core worlds and prepare for a last stand against the human alliance. But as he prepared to withdraw, something unexpected happened. A human transmission reached his ship, but it was not a demand for surrender. Instead, it was an offer. Commander Hyunwoo, came the voice of Admiral Subin. We know who you are. We have studied your record and learned that you have shown mercy to civilian populations during your conquests. We offer you and your warriors a choice. Continue fighting for an empire that is already dead or help us build something better. Hyunwoo stared at the transmission for a long time. He thought about the thousands of worlds his empire had conquered, the countless species they had enslaved, and the fear they had spread across the galaxy. Then he thought about what he had seen humans accomplish in just a few months. They had not only defeated the Vorthak, they had inspired others to believe that freedom was possible. For the first time in his long life, Commander Hyun-woo made a decision based on hope rather than conquest. "I accept your offer," he transmitted back to the human fleet. The war between humans and Vorthak officially ended not with a final battle, but with the last Vorthak commanders switching sides to join the liberation effort. The few overlords who refused to surrender retreated to distant sectors of the galaxy, taking only their most loyal followers. Dr. Jihai stood in the rebuilt Alterian capital, watching as former enemies worked together to construct a new galactic alliance. Humans shared their technology and tactical knowledge, while other species contributed their own skills and resources. "You have given us something more valuable than freedom," Elder Kyrith told her. "You have given us hope that the galaxy can be a place of cooperation instead of conquest." Admiral Subin established the first interstellar peacekeeping force, with ships from dozens of species working together to protect vulnerable worlds from the few remaining Vorthak holdouts and other potential threats. Commander Hyun-woo, now wearing the insignia of the Galactic Alliance, led joint operations to liberate the last Vorthak slave colonies. His knowledge of Empire tactics and his natural warrior skills made him an invaluable asset in the fight for galactic freedom. "I spent 3,000 years believing that strength meant the ability to conquer others," he told Captain So-young during one of their joint missions. "Humans taught me that true strength means the ability to protect others." As the first year of the Galactic Alliance came to an end, humanity found itself in a position they had never expected. They were not the rulers of the galaxy, but they were its guardians.